Hi there, welcome to the handover video for our rib. This is going to cover the safety as well. So when you arrive at the marina, in the email you were sent it's all going to have the details of the car park, so you'll have already had that, and also the gate code for how to access the main marina gate. And then it's just walking down and then down B pontoon, and the rib's located towards the end of B pontoon. You'll see it. So when you arrive at the rib, the first thing you do is you step on board and take the cover off. So if we do that together now, just be careful stepping down. You can put your hand on the top of here, but don't press there because there is a small perspex screen. So there is a bar there at the top under the cover. The cover is just attached to the life raft cradle with a small knot. And then lift it up from the front. Lift the back of the seats. And then just place it on the pontoon. And then on the boat's keys, there's two small keys here. And the brown box just over to the front of the rib. If you undo that, there is plenty of space just to store the cover for the day. Also in there is all of the soap and brushes and some buckets for giving the rib a good wash down when you come back. And at the other end of the pontoon we've got a hose pipe which is for use for all of our customers. Once the rib cover's off, the next thing we need to do is to turn the battery on. So if you'd like to step on board, we'll go through the battery. There's a handle on the back of the jockey seat there to hold on to. And then just the hatch that says do not open at sea, we just turn those sideways. That'll open, and if I lift that up, just inside here you'll see a little red switch, and the arrow is pointing to the down position, which is off. So for the engine start and normal operation, all we do is turn that so it's pointing to the 1 position. The number 2 at the other side, as it says here, is for emergency start. Yeah, don't use it in both. It should never be in both because otherwise you could be depleting both batteries without knowing. So engine start normal operation is setting number 1. If you had a flat battery you can start it from setting number 2, and we never use both. So in number 1 it should be fine, and then we just close that up. Twist those and just make sure that that is secure. And then jockey seat at the helm position. It's got 2 little clips on the front, so if you just release the clips and we open that up, and then in here what we've got is torches, which you shouldn't use for day hire. We've got all of the safety bits and pieces to do with navigation, so you've got Solent chart in here, you've got an almanac in there for tidal information, and then there's other bits and pieces which are to do with the boat's coding. So most of this you won't need, just for a fun day out on the rib. The one thing that you will need to look at is this one here, which is marked Routines and Instructions Manual. So in the Routines and Instructions Manual is everything I'm talking about at the moment. So if you forget something from this video, you just go through. It says all about the batteries, and it goes all about the depths, about life jackets, which I'll mention in a minute, the marina plan of whereabouts we are. The most important one, if you forget something, is this one. So this is the layout of essential equipment. So you just have a look at that and then just have a read through. It's got safety information all about the rib, about the switch gear, which I'm going to go through as well. So that's also in there. Also in here is handheld VHF. So it's just power on, it's checked for charge. You've got searchlight, there's foghorn, there's 2 first aid kits on board, so this one is an everyday first aid kit, and also we've got a larger green one. PPE pack, so this is a PPE pack for the boat, and if you turn it around you'll see there that we've got surface wipes so that you can give it all a wipe over. We've got hand gels in there, 2 pairs of gloves, 2 masks, so when you go to refuel the boat, and at the end of the video I'll explain about when you return the boat for refueling, they're there for you to use. Please make sure you're wearing gloves if you're using the fuel guns, and if you've got people inside a close area towards where you are, then there's masks and everything else in there for your use. So that's just in this side, and everything will be on board for you for when you come down. The other side, we've got all of the life jackets. So all of our life jackets are all the same, they're all automatic. So there's enough life jackets for what you've told the office that you're going to need on board. So they're all going to be in here ready for you. And just be careful with the manual pull. So these are auto inflating life jackets, but they have got a manual override. So just be careful you don't catch that when you're taking them out. Also, just in the back of here, if you have a look down there, there's 2 fire extinguishers which are for the ribs use. So they're both powder. Okay, so that's that side. If you spin round, I'll show you the back section. So we've got the seats. It's really quite easy to stand on these when you're getting on and off the ribs. So there is a little sign at the side saying please do not stand on the seats. If you could just ask all of your crew to make sure they don't stand on them. And then inside the back here, there is the flare pack, there is a pump for the tubes, there is a tow line, there is some baler's buckets. In here has got a large category C first aid kit, which is to do with the ribs sort of professional operation. So you shouldn't need that. So there's 2 underneath the seat. Please only use that if you're told to do so by the Coast Guard in a big emergency. And you've got the big flare pack there, which is for the flares for the rib. So that's all underneath the aft seat. And then just forward, if you like to just turn around. So just up at the front of the boat, we've got the life raft. So you shouldn't need this, but if you do need to use it in an emergency, it's just lift it or break this catch, and the painter is not attached. The painter is the rope that actually sets the life raft off. So I say in normal operations inside the Solent, you shouldn't need this. There should be plenty of people around you. But if it was a bigger emergency, it's just lift it out of the cradle to deploy it and make sure the painter is attached to something solid. And then the anchor locker is twist and lift up. In here you'll find there's a grapnel anchor, so it's self-explanatory. Pull it out. It's quite hard to get it in and out of here because it's nearly the same size. So when you take it out of there, it's just got a collar and it slides down, and it's got the sort of the spikes stick out. So be very careful with it when you're actually using it over the side of the tubes. Make sure that you don't catch any of the tubes of it. It's got 10 meters of chain and 30 meters of line. When you put the anchor out, if you anchor in a bay somewhere, please make sure that it goes over between these 2 rubber strips. We don't ever want to be pulling the anchor up against the tubes, which can damage it. So that's the anchoring there. There is an anchor ball in there as well. And then once it's away, just make sure that's secured down. Okay. Back of the boat, if we just spin around. We've got 2 horseshoes for if you had a man overboard situation, and also this one is attached to the throw line, so that's there in case you need to recover anyone from the water. So the engine on the boat will be in its upright position. It's got tilt and trim on there, so it'll be in its upstowed position. And we've already done the engine checks on the engine for you, so you don't need to take the cowling off at all. If there was a problem, there's 2 releases which you just need to look in the manual for, or give us a ring on the 2 emergency numbers that are also in the routines and instructions manual. So the keys would have been in a location on the boat, as I said in the email. So the Yamaha key, which is that one there, is the engine start key. The other ones on that is for the brown box, which is for cleaning. So just make sure that you keep these safe, because you don't want to lose this over the side, otherwise it will cause you a problem. So when we're looking at engine start, we've already turned the batteries on. So the next thing we need to do is put the engine down, and then I'll show you just about the fuel bubble. So if you want to just turn around so you can see this. So the kill cord will be through the wheel. So this has got a stainless steel clip on it. So for engine start, we don't need to put this on, but what we do need to do is just leave it through the wheel. And then this one here, if we can please just make sure that we keep that out of the way This is just for when we're doing some training, so it's not for if you're hiring the boat, and that's why it's stowed up around here. So that just wants to be tied up out the way, and don't touch that if you can help it. And then key just slots in, turns one position, and then on the end of here we've got the up and down for the engine. So if I press the down, you can see that the engine's going to drop down. It's got two settings on it, so it's going to go down quite quick and then it's going to slow down. There's the slow. Once you get to the slow down part, just leave it, because that takes more power, and what we want to do is get the engine started so it's generating its own recovery of energy. So the little lever here is a throttle. So all we do is we lift that lever up, and that's going to mean that the engine's going to start with a little bit of choke off the throttle. And if I turn the key, she'll start. So we leave it in this position. The reason for that is because the engine on this rib is a type where it just needs to balance all the fuel throughout the carburetors. So we need to get it nice and warm before we move off. So once she's in that position there and she's started, if you press the down button on the trim and then move the engine all the way to the down position. And on this one, if you look up here on the dial, that is the power trim lever. So you can see there, it's right down on number one. It never wants to be more than about 2.5, 3 when you're operating the boat. If it's higher than that, then you risk losing steering on the boat. So it's always going to be between 1 and 3 when you're going along. Okay, so the engine's now running. The one thing on the back of the boat, just to show you, is if you can't get off, it's hard to start. Just down here there is a fuel bubble, and all we do is we squeeze that just to push the fuel up into the engine. And in case of emergency, that is an emergency fuel shut-off. It should always be in that position there, which is the open position. So the one thing we just need to do when you start the engine is to check the kill cord is operating. So this is going to be so we just pull that and it should stop the engine immediately. Alright, so always do a kill cord check before you do anything else with moving off. And so you can remove the key if you need to put it back. And that just clips straight back on underneath there. So that's where it clips onto. You see that just there? Just clips on there. And then the engine will restart. If anyone fell over the side of the boat and they were wearing the kill cords, if you had an incident, in the two bags underneath this helm seat here there is a spare kill cord, and that's there for if this one actually went over the side of the boat. And it says think wear your kill cord, so we ask you to always make sure that this is attached to you. It never goes around your wrist, it's always going to go around your thigh, and then just clips on, and that's where you'd wear it. It can attach to a belt buckle or something like that, but just never where your hands are. So once the engine's warming up, all we're going to do is just a few more checks. So I'm going to leave that just there. So she's got hydraulic steering, so all we do is just turn the wheel, make sure that the engine's turning full over, so go all the way over one way, and then all the way over to the other side, make sure your steering's fully free. And while you're doing that, you'll notice at the side of the engine there is a telltale of water which is jetting out. We'll always need to make sure that that's jetting out, which means that the engine is cooling properly. So it's one of the checks we're going to do when we're doing our just start-up procedure checks and getting the engine up to temperature. The other thing we just need to check for is to make sure there's no ropes in the water, there's no debris, there's no big patches of weed. So we want to make sure that we have a look down and look where the propeller is, that's all clear through there. And then we've checked the steering, we've checked there's nothing down there, we've checked the telltales coming out of the engine. And then with the throttle control, we're just going to go lift the red handle, which is where it's locked into its neutral position, it can't move from there. And while you're alongside, we're just going to go into gear, neutral, into gear, neutral, into astern, neutral, into astern, neutral, and just make sure you're happy with the way that throttle operates before you untie the boat and you set off. Okay, so by the time you've done all of that lot, the engine will be warmed up. So the last thing to talk about is just what's up here. So if you bring the camera a little bit further, just take the covers off and they can go under either of the seats. And then here we've got some switches, anchor light and navigation light. So in the up position there, they're in the off position. This is the bilge pumping. It always wants to be in the automatic position, which is pushed up. You shouldn't need to touch that. If you accidentally catch it, it goes to the middle, which is in its off position. Down is manual override, but it should always be left in its auto position because it does a check to see if there's any water in it. And then here you've got navigation and VHF off. So all we're doing is turn both of those on. The VHF's going to turn on. And then channel 11's for Queen's Harbour. The squelch setting on there is actually set, so that's actually been secured in place, so you don't need to touch that one. Then we've got the volume control, which is just here. So when you're going along at speed, you won't really hear it. This one here is just to change channel. And then you've got the button there for 16. And it's also DSC, so it's got a distress flap. So if you lift that, then it's got a button underneath for distress. Just to this side of the wheel, there is a VHF Mayday procedure card for the rib, including all of our details. If you're not very familiar with VHFs, then what we suggest is that you use the handheld, but you make sure that it's connected to your life jacket with the securing clip. The chart plotter, if you press and hold the power button and you press it quite firmly, it'll beep. The screen looks like it's quite dark, but it is starting up, so you just need to wait for it to come up and say Garmin over the front, which is just there. And then as soon as it comes up saying with a menu, which is in a second, it just takes a little bit of time just to get it all set up. It comes up saying I agree, so you just click select, then it comes up with this on the screen. So you want charts, it's already set on charts, so you just press select on charts, and then it's already blue on navigation, so you just press select, and then it comes up with the navigation charts. And then the vessel, the rib is just there, look, it will eventually come up with your position here, and then the plus and minus arrow is just to zoom in and out. Okay, so that's just a little chart plotter that's on board. The one thing about this rib is you need to always ensure you've got at least 1 meter of depth. You check the chart, so if it's an area you're not familiar with, do not go somewhere shallow unless you've checked it, because we've got a lot of small underwater hazards around the Solent. Just make sure you keep the rib in plenty of water. The depth on this boat will be probably have 3 lines across it, because the reader on the back of the boat is very temperamental, especially with the speed of the boat. So please don't rely on the depth reading that's coming up on here. We always look at the chart and we just make sure we know what the actual depth is going to be, absolute worst case scenario, and always keep the boat in at least 1 meter of depth, if not more, when you're out there. Okay, so that's the VHF operation and the chart plotter. She has got a fusion stereo, so if you press the on button on that, she'll come up and so it's a wave 105, and then you just turn the volume up and down, and then just press that for off, and it'll turn itself off. When you then go to put the rib to bed, so when you come back, the one thing you need to do is the fuel in the rib is going to be full when you pick it up, so we ask that you go to the fuel station and refill what you've used. If you go out and you've used a lot, then you will need to refuel. So if you're over near Cowes, the best place is to go up just past Cowes Yacht Haven. There's a big fuel dock on the right or the starboard side of the channel. You'll see it's got a big crane that says fuel open on it. Or if you come into Portsmouth Harbour, go past the green lightship, go past the green ferries going across the harbour, and Premier Marina, which is the next marina up, has got an automated fuel berth. If you go on the inside of the fuel berth where there's less water movement, then the pump towards the end is unleaded. So the boat just takes standard unleaded fuel. There's no oil or anything else that's mixed in with the fuel. Fuel filler cap's just on this side. when you unscrew that, it's just here. When you unscrew it, you just lift up the lid top and then just turn it. That comes out. It's not connected to anything, so you need to make sure it's definitely held down in the boat. Up on the gauge here, this is where the fuel is at the moment. She's at the moment, she's just ready for refuel, so we're going to take her and refuel her, so she will be full, and those bars will go up as you fill her up. As you get towards the top, be very careful that you don't just keep putting fuel in. Just let go and let the air and any sort of like foaming in the fuel tank go. Otherwise you'll find that it'll spurt out of the filler and it'll run down the deck. So once she starts getting full, just be careful, just slow it down, just do little bit, and if you put your ear to that, you'll be able to hear the sort of like noise change in the tube, and then if that's reading full and you get that noise change, then she's full. Okay. So turning her off, if you want to turn the engine off, so it's just turn the key around to the other side. Once she's warm, she's totally fine. She doesn't need to balance anymore. It's just that initial first 10 minutes. So she'll start lovely and just turn off. And then the two instruments here, the easiest way is just the off and on here. Is just to turn everything off. Turn those off. And then when you get the boat done, please make sure these two covers are back on before you wash the boat down. So when you come back in, it's just a reversal of what we've just gone through. So the brown box over there, if you can get the soft brushes out, just give her a wash off with soapy water. The bilge pump should be set in auto all the time, so the water that you put inside the boat will naturally be dealt with. So once she's washed down, you just need to lift the engine up, so that would be just on here. So I'll press the up and you can see the engine lifting. Goes on the fast setting, and then as soon as it gets to the top, just go down a little bit just so she's not got pressure on it. You can take the key out of the ignition. The kill cord just goes through the wheel so that it's not forgotten next time. Same just in reversal. So open this up. That switch inside there, we just change that back down to the 0 setting. So that goes down to off. Close that up. Just get the cover out, put the cover back on, and that's it. Thank you very much.